Another definite sound of the band was David Byron. He was an incredible frontman. He kind of had it all, didn't he? I mean, to you, sum up David. What made him so special?
Well, number one, he had the most marvelous voice, a fantastic voice, and David was one of these vocalists that lived inside a song. You know, he wasn't just a vehicle for it. You know, and I think that's where it comes through in the grooves. It comes through when people hear his voice. There is a deep honesty there that just springs out of everything. You know, he was just wonderful, and of course he had a great vocal range. You know, you get up really high too. You know, and do the screaming which was very important in those days.
Yes, of course.
And he also had charisma. You know, by the bucket load. You know, I always said, you know, if you were in the Albert Hall, it was full up, and David came in one of the exits. You know, he was there. You know, he had that sort of charisma, you know.
Brilliant.
In the end, a lot of that charisma was his downfall, I believe, you know, because you couldn't leave it on stage. You had to have it everywhere, and it's not a healthy thing.
No, not at all. And David had to leave the band, but there was a point, wasn't there, in the 80s when you tried to reconcile with David, didn't you, and try and get him back into Heep, but it just wasn't happening.
Trevor Bowl and myself, we went down to his house, and I said, look to him, David, I've got the record contracts, I've got all the gear, I've got all the work, I've got everything we possibly need. Let's get the strength back to where it was in Spice prior to Heep, you know, with you and me doing the writing and everything. And Trevor was on board, and so that was a good thing. But we went in there, and I saw him at his house, and he had a lot of people in there, and he had like 2 or 3 managers blowing smoke up his backside, and a lot of drinking was happening and not clear thinking, I have to say. And in the end, he was just so immersed in his solo project that he, you know, I think he was putting together Rough Diamond at the time. He was so immersed in all that he couldn't see any other way to go than the way he went, you know. In fact, you know, I can remember vividly sitting outside in the car outside the house with Trevor, and we just looked at each other and went, what happened? We went in with all these great ideas, all these great offers and everything to launch him back to where he should be, and it wasn't to be. What's going to happen?
It's sad, isn't it? Especially when you talk about the managers.
Real shame, because you know, we would have gone on to great things for sure.
Absolutely. And you mentioned managers there. I've heard you in another interview say that maybe if the managers had looked after the band members a little bit better in those early days, because they definitely flogged you, didn't they? It was 2 albums a year, it was 9 months touring, then perhaps certain things wouldn't have happened to certain members.
You know, there was no attention given to anybody's private life at all. I mean, I could understand it to a degree, because when we first got launched, I mean, Jerry Bryan, our manager at the time, he put his money where his mouth was. He got us all the ads, you know, full-page ads in all the magazines and Melody Makers and NME and Sounds and all the rest of it. You know, it's marvellous. But then obviously he wants his money paid back. You know, he bought us all the equipment, you know, and there comes a time when you've got to pay that back. And we did over a number of years. But then when we paid back tenfold, it's time to just ease off a little bit, but he didn't. He just kept pushing. And then the wheels were falling off, you know. You can't go with that sort of pressure without something happening. And it did, unfortunately. But you know, there's 2 ways of thinking it as well. But also, back then, anybody had any dependency on anything, there wasn't a priory to go to. There wasn't anything other than your local doctor. So there was no backup for any of that, or no information that you could go and green out somewhere to try and put it right, you know. So it was a difficult time all round. But I just feel that if we had more time to have home life, then that balance would be beneficial to everyone.